Welcome to Season 4 of Pop-O-Holics. It's Christian, your host. And I'm joined by my two best friends.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree. We're back.
We're back.
Season 4.
We got back.
We made it.
Oh, I should probably switch. I got to learn how to do this again. I probably should switch to the viewer.
I made a get back joke last week.
And I rolled right
no
over.
Response.
I got rolled right
no
over.
Response.
Yeah, I'm a focused host. What can I say? Well, gentlemen, it's good to be back here. We are officially starting Season 4 of the Pop-O-Holics. Very excited. This is our fourth year, starting it off strong. And although I may be absent for a few months or a few episodes this year, I'm very excited to get it started. The pod is not dead, Brian. The pod
We are live.
is alive.
I'm glad to hear this.
And it is well.
It's not dead right now. Brian and I might run it into the ground.
It's
we'll see what
quite likely.
happens.
Yeah.
But
tanking
as of this moment, it is very much alive.
I'm surprised that we've been going this long, and I'm hosting it. It's only by the great effort from you, gentlemen. But it's good to be back on a weekly upload. What is the weekly upload? Well, it's a time where we come together to talk about the latest going-ons in pop culture, kind of our, weekly update. We give you some news. We normally talk about what we've been consuming in our quick hits. Then we give some community feedback. Although, for the main topic episode, which is generally where we take some time to talk about centerpieces around an upcoming feature film or big piece of art, video game, whatever, we take some time to do retrospective on it, or we just cover new stuff in a month. We're going to try to experiment this year and stay up to date and cover some more new stuff coming out. But those are the main topic episodes. We're actually going to take quick hits. We're going to move it over and do the third installation, if I'm not mistaken. Is it third or second? It's third, right?
The third, yes.
Right. We had mega quick hits. Mega quick hits 2.
The quickening,
the quickening.
I believe. Yeah.
And what's
And this
Chris?
is Mega Quick Hits 3, The Quicker They Fall.
The quicker they fall.
The title of this one.
Very nice.
Yeah, I like that. That was great. So Mega Quick Hits 3, The Quicker They Fall, on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
So we've got a jam-packed news section we're going to get through, and then we're going to have some community feedback, and then join us for Wednesday's episode. But before we do that, we need to talk about how 2022 is going so far, and the pop culture landscape. And we've lost some legends, haven't we?
Yeah, most definitely. It has been a lot of unfortunate news, although, got to appreciate a long life when it's there. So I will say a lot of very respected and long-lived people, and some that, are tragically taken sooner than you would expect.
Yeah. So going down the list of those we've lost already in this year, since we've been away on our little New Year break, we've lost Sidney Poitier, Peter Bogdanovich, Betty White, Bob Saget, and Gaspard Ulliel. Am I pronouncing that right, Brian?
Ulliel.
Thank you. Some absolute legends in their class, and I wanted to go around and talk. I have Brian tell us a bit about each of them, and if we have any thoughts on any ones in particular. But certainly, quite a really, really tragic and sad loss for many parts of the film industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. So just very quickly, Sidney Poitier, he was the first Black man and the first person from the Bahamas to win an Academy Award, and he won that for Lilies of the Field in 1963. He was knighted at some point in his life, an ambassador for the Bahamas to multiple countries at different times, and in a variety of movies that were very popular. I unfortunately have not seen any of these and need to do kind of a deep dive retrospective back into his career. He was in Raisin in the Sun, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. One that is more recent in the 90s, Sneakers, is one that I've heard great things about. It's supposed to be a really good movie, as well as Stir Crazy with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. So a ridiculously long career. And yeah, that was Sidney Poitier. He died at age 94. Peter Bogdanovich, someone who I didn't know too much about prior to him passing, but apparently he is kind of the Hollywood guy who is sort of famous for knowing people to some degree. That's an oversimplification because he's a filmmaker, he's a journalist, he started writing about Hollywood and is seen as this kind of carryover between two generations of Hollywood filmmaking and basically a historian of film while making acclaimed films himself. He made What's Up, Doc? He made Paper Moon, The Last Picture Show, which got 8 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins for supporting roles. A bunch of movies he acted as well. And just like I said, a Hollywood historian, someone who has interviewed a ton of people, worked with a ton of famous actors. He also was in and helped finish the last Orson Welles movie, The Other Side of the Wind, which is on Netflix. There's a documentary about it as well. It was kind of a promise to Orson Welles that he made that if I die before this movie gets made, see it through. And it finally got done in like the 2010s when it was started in the late 70s, early 80s, I think. So really incredible and storied career. That's Peter Bogdanovich. Betty White, famous American actress and comedian. She was not only on a bunch of different television shows, but she apparently started in game shows, from things like the $25,000 Pyramid and Hollywood Squares. She obviously went into TV with The Bold and the Beautiful, Boston Legal, and The Carol Burnett Show. And then maybe most famously as roles on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Golden Girls, as well as Hot in Cleveland more recently, and some movie appearances. So Betty White, someone I was relatively familiar with, but I've never really dug deep into her career. I saw Golden Girls on Nick at Night and stuff growing up a little bit. But yes, at the age of 99, Betty White has passed away as well.
Only like several weeks away from her 100th birthday. So tragic.
And
what a life well lived.
I saw someone who talked about the amount of leap years that she lived through, and counting those extra days, we're going to say she made it to the 100.
I'm on board for that.
Especially as someone who's about to have a child. You're kind of like, well, you kind of start earlier than when you're out of the womb. You know, I know there's a whole debate on, whatever.
We're getting into tricky territory here, but
technically how long your cells have existed, if you're just like, I don't know. It seems weird because, I'm at the, I should have a bag packed just in case. Not likely, but, it's like,
that's the stage of the pregnancy that you're in right now.
Large percentage of survival rate, fully formed kind of little human. And I'm like, okay, so if he stays in there a little longer, he's going to be younger, but still older. I don't know. Let's say, I'm saying all this for no other reason to say than Betty White, we're going to give you 100.
I'm on board. Let's do it.
She stayed in the womb an extra month.
The Pop-O-Holics say Betty White lived to be 100 years old.
So 3 Hollywood legends, TV legends that thankfully lived really long lives and, seem to have gotten a lot of praise while they're alive, which a lot of people don't get. So rest in peace to all of them for sure. Some that were taken shorter. Bob Saget at the age of 65 has now passed away. This is someone who was very much kind of a staple of my television experience growing up. Probably the same for you guys, being one of the leads on Full House as Danny Tanner, being the original host of America's Funniest Home Videos, proto YouTube style things that we all watched and loved, just silly family and pet videos, VHS tapes, a very different time. But
the narrator for How I Met Your Mother.
And the narrator for How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, older Ted Mosby. Just iconic characters. I never really watched his stand-up, but apparently he was a very blue comic and, a popular stand-up in his own right as well. So, yeah, not a short life, but 65.
Directed one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen called The Aristocrats.
Dirty Work? The Aristocrats. He directed that documentary?
I believe so. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
I'll double check to make sure I'm not misspeaking. But yeah, I actually I had a meeting with the editor of that movie. But that is a movie that is the same, just most messed up joke you've ever heard in your life, told repeatedly by different comedians. I have to revisit it because I don't think I appreciated it when I was younger, because it is the same horrible joke. I mean, it involves.
It's very funny.
It involves.
It's so dirty, but very funny.
It involves incest and fecal matter and pissing and it's.
But
horrible.
the premise of the joke is that everyone changes it and tries to like one up how horrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is from the last time they heard it. So I mean, it's obviously over time has gotten progressively
just obscene,
more inappropriate.
So an interesting project there.
That sounds pretty great. But yeah, so Bob Saget at 65 has passed away. Now, at 37 years old, a tragic death of Gaspard Ulliel died after a tragic skiing accident that was very serious that he ended up suffering fatal wounds from. This is someone who is very much on the upswing career-wise. He is known for having played the young Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal Rising in 2007, playing Yves Saint Laurent in the biopic Saint Laurent, and most recently is going to be appearing in Moon Knight. And I don't know if his character is a spoiler, Chris. Do you know? Is it okay if I say the...
I don't believe it's a spoiler.
So he's playing... Okay, yeah, he's playing Anton Mogart / Midnight Man. So, yeah, just obviously 37 years old is no life at all, right? I mean, that's not the right way to say it, but it's
I'm dangerously close to that.
Yeah, it's what we consider to be not even middle age these days. And yeah, someone, like I said, got this presumably going to be kind of a breakout role in this new MCU show. And yeah, deaths are always tough. But this one is the most recent of the ones we're talking about, and the youngest, and it's just a real shame. So just rest in peace to all of these people and their families. I know it's been a struggle, not only losing people close to us in the last few years, which I know a lot of people have, but people we look up to and kind of idolize. So yeah, not an easy way to start the show, but a lot of, lives well lived for the time they were here.
Yeah, I totally messed up. He didn't direct Aristocrats. He's in it. He's one of the comedians.
He is in it. I remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
He did not.
But
he
did direct Dirty Work, which I mentioned, which I randomly texted you guys about like a few months ago, asking like, do you guys ever just find yourself quoting Dirty Work? If you haven't seen the comedy directed by Bob Saget, starring Norm Macdonald, who tragically, passed earlier last year or later.
Isn't
last
Chris
year,
Farley in it too?
Chris Farley's in it. It's one of his last roles.
Oh my gosh.
Arnie Lang is in it. I highly recommend the movie. I think I saw it way too young, but it's very, very funny.
The clip you sent to us had me dying and made me want to watch it, and I've forgotten until now, but I think I have to go back to it.
Yeah, it's worth a revisit.
Yeah, just a word on a couple of these. Definitely, I believe it's The Daily, the New York Times podcast, put out a kind of retrospective of the career of Sidney Poitier, so definitely worth a check out. I listened to most of that. Peter Bogdanovich, been in a lot of classics, but stuff that I haven't seen. Both Betty White and Peter Bogdanovich both worked until the day they passed. I mean, they both were still working,
dedicated,
which is crazy. Betty White is just an icon of a woman on TV, being that famous and well known, and just owning her career. The sweetest lady. You'd never hear a bad story about her. Just seems like was such a wonderful joy to work with. Very positive person. Loved pets. I believe she had over like 20, 25 dogs. So she's a very big animal rights activist.
Something I didn't say that I wanted to shout out. She was the first woman to produce a sitcom in the United States with Life with Elizabeth. So groundbreaking in a lot of ways. She's been
and this is kind of where we're at with the last of this generation that we're losing. She invented TV. There's an idea that these people made TV what it is. I mean, it was invented in her lifetime, and she trailblazed it for not only comedy but women alike. So just wonderful. She, I believe, was on Modern Family. I think she popped up a couple times there, if not on other programs and stuff. It's always nice seeing her. She's in movies and stuff, and I believe I think she was in one of. I'm gonna stop saying stuff because I seem to be wrong about everything. But she's been in a lot of comedies where she just pops up. You're like, oh, it's Betty White. It's crazy.
I think I saw she may have been in The Proposal.
That's
kind of
right.
like a comeback movie for her a little bit, or like an exposure to people who hadn't maybe seen her.
Yeah, there's a behind the scenes of her like giving Ryan Reynolds like she's like, who's this guy? Because this is before he.
I like the cut of his jib.
Very very fun. Bob Saget died in our hometown. Chris, high five. Not our hometown.
Oh boy, when I heard that I was like, why does it have to be Orlando?
Well, what's crazy is I remember I was fed an ad on like Facebook or Instagram that was like, go see Bob Saget live. I said, oh, that would be cool,
Yeah, he tweeted out like several hours prior to his death how much he was enjoying being back on tour, and Orlando was literally the first show of the tour.
He did.
Wow.
No, he did 2 shows on the tour, right? And one.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he did Jacksonville.
Okay.
Yeah, he started the tour in Florida. He did 2 shows and was enjoying it immensely, but tragically passed. And I don't know if he passed in his sleep, from what I know, and they didn't find anything. But
as far as I understand,
yeah,
there hasn't, nothing's come out stating that it was like drug related or anything. It was just he just died in his sleep.
But an interesting story, like we talked about, part of my childhood, Full House was one of my favorite sitcoms growing up. I love that show. So it just
my wife loves that show too.
Inseparable from my childhood. And then America's Funniest Home Videos. Me and my family watched that all the time. And then I remember starting to watch comedy a lot more and being like, oh, Bob Saget's dirty. And, that was a really fun thing to be introduced to as I got older. And from all accounts, just a wonderful soul. He lost his sister tragically to a rare skin disease or a rare autoimmune disease, I think is what it is. It's got a really funky name. It's like Sclagara or something like that. But I recommend there is a L now or so, I forget what the conference is called, but there's a conversation that I watched the whole thing, and it's between James Oliver and Bob Saget, and it's a thing that came out a couple years ago, but I think even pre-pandemic, and they're just talking about his career and stuff, and the audience comes up and asking questions, and it's insightful to see what a funny man he was, and how thoughtful he was and how nice he was, because even though he got a rap for being blue and being really dirty and profane, he was super, like, he was just a really genuinely nice person.
Yeah.
And everybody, no, I haven't heard anybody come out and say anything bad about him, which is a great legacy to leave, especially in the age of, oh, look who's more of a piece of shit this week. It's always good to hear that some people did live humbly and were very, very pleasant, and that seems to be the case. But yeah, and then sadly, an actor that I haven't seen ever, to my knowledge, right? And we're going to be introduced to and probably fall in love with, because Disney makes you fall in love with like even side characters. So definitely, I'm like oddly not looking forward to that,
Yeah.
But rest in peace to all involved. Chris, did you want to say anything about any of these individuals?
I think I've kind of said everything that I have to say about them over the course of the conversation. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, the first few individuals we talked about were legendary actors and actresses in their own right, and those were all lives well lived. And then of course these other 2 individuals just taken too soon. So death, regardless of age, is always tragic.
Oh, I thought you were about to say death comes for us all.
It's trying to both are very somber notes to end this segment. So I mean,
well, we have to end the RIP segment with the most respectful sound effect that we have in our library.
Oh gosh.
Oh no, not play. See.
Oh boy.
All right.
Okay.
Let's start to wacky things up as we move into a more lighthearted part of the show, which is Brian's Wacky News Corner.
For just $19.99, you can get possible tickets to a very real, very exciting festival that is coming to Las Vegas, supposedly, this year. The When We Were Young Festival was just announced and kind of made a giant set of ripples throughout Twitter, and nostalgia rose exponentially after this came out. So there is a festival supposedly happening maybe one day.
I love that Brian
multiple
refuses
days.
to say that it's actually happening.
I'm not convinced personally. So it's supposedly, according to their website, starting or maybe solely taking place for 24 hours on Saturday, October 22nd, 2022.
Or it could be the middle day, Brian. We don't know.
It could be the middle day, but hopefully they have more than one day for this amount of bands. But I'm not going to be able to list them all, but I'm going to list a bunch. We have the website in the show notes. We have My Chemical Romance. We have Paramore. We have Dashboard Confessional, Taking Back Sunday, A Day to Remember, The Used, Bring Me the Horizon, AFI, Alkaline Trio, Manchester Orchestra, Dance Gavin Dance, Boys Like Girls, Pierce the Veil, Avril Lavigne, Bright Eyes, Jimmy Eat World. Seemingly limitless amounts of old
Did you
school.
say Paramore? I think Paramore was on the
Paramore,
list.
yep.
It's an absurd amount of like early 2000s emo rock bands.
Yes. And when we were young, I mean, it's clearly a play at nostalgia. And
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it now, maybe all of these bands, I think it's supposed to be 3 stages. Maybe it's a long full day festival, sunrise to sundown. Maybe they could fit all of these in one day. But yeah, this seems like it's going to be an insane show, especially if you lived / were interested in any of this sort of music during the time. You're obviously going to have a lot to choose from with the When We Were Young festival. Who knows who's going to be traveling for music festivals come the end of this year, or if they will even hold this,
True.
considering the state of the pandemic. But how do you guys feel about this? Christian is much more convinced that it's a real thing that will actually happen than I am at this point.
I mean,
so in terms of like, Christian, you go
no,
for
please, Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of like pure primal reactions to seeing this flyer, I was sitting here at my desk working when the flyer came through my Twitter feed, and I was instantly transported to like Warped Tour 2004. So like 16-year-old Chris immediately was like, this is the craziest fucking lineup I've ever seen in my entire life. And similar to you, Brian, my immediate reaction was like, is this like a fan-made flyer?
That's right.
This can't be real.
I legit thought it was a joke when I first saw it.
It's like a too good to be true concert for those of our generation and age group, you know? Yeah, I don't know if I'm 100% convinced. I might be kind of in between Christian and Brian in terms of whether this concert's actually going to take place. But man, if it does, I'm jealous of everybody that's going to get to attend. This is an insane lineup. And I just remember having to run between stages at Warped Tour when I was a teenager and having to make like horrible sacrifices, like deciding which bands you had to sacrifice to see the ones that you really wanted to see. And this lineup is just, it would be an impossible task to like figure out which ones you were going to skip to see other ones. But oh man, I wish they were gonna like broadcast this virtually or something. That would be sick. But Christian, how'd you feel about this?
I mean, it's a lot of bands, and again, I said at the beginning, like, I mean, the concert might not happen,
Yeah.
for reasons that are outside the people that are doing the show and putting the show together. I mean, there's a global pandemic happening and all this other stuff. So, things can happen. I'm not saying, 100% this will happen. There's a lot of stuff in entertainment that doesn't happen, but it's most likely going to happen with where we're at. I do think it's possible some of those bands don't play. With insane lineups like this, things happen. Band members get sick, travel arrangements, other obligations. The band breaks up. There's stuff. There's a lot of bands. The more bands you have, the more likely some of those bands are going to show up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I do believe, knowing how this business works, that this is going to be at least a 2-day, if not 3-day event, where maybe a lot of these bands are what headline Saturday, but it is definitely, they're drawing up a lot of hype. I think you've seen a lot of the artists not say a lot about it just because there's so much buzz around it that's inevitably a good thing if they can sell out. There's a way that they can build hype and then be like, okay, we have enough pre-sales to now go like, yes, this was a good idea. Let's expand it. Let's officially expand it out. It's like the confidence in which they made the first Dune. You know, like, yes, we are most likely going to be doing a second Dune, right? This is like, they're calling it a festival.
We're going to make part of a movie and hope that it's received well.
And they're selling they're selling wristbands that I think on their website say that they're good all weekend. Someone looked into the source code of the website and also identified that it says second day in the code of like a way to, you know, buy passes and stuff that isn't on the website yet. So I think this is all hype cycle and it's working. Live Nation is a very, very, very big and very mostly competent ticket provider and event coordinator. Now, Brian, you brought up before the pod, the tragedy at Astroworld was a Live Nation event. That being said, to my knowledge, the security and all that stuff is hired by the acts and the management company they're in. There's a lot of different moving parts and reasons that failed. And I think that's totally separate. I think anybody I'm not going to defend giant corporations. I'm just going to show the facts. The security that ran Astroworld, that company is probably not going to work very much anymore. And it will most certainly be different. And it always is for different artists, in different types of festivals and stuff. So hopefully with the tragedy that occurred, security is extra tight, and extra safe, which is, I think, a lot of reckoning. I know I know a person that works for Live Nation, and of course, big shakeup. Everybody had to reevaluate that, and no one wants people to die like that. So anyway, all that being said, I can't go. I'm gonna have a 6-month-old, so unless they have daycare at this thing, it ain't happening. But it's very exciting. It's my childhood. I was looking up past Warped Tour and past. We had a 97X in Tampa, and their next big thing where they highlighted 8 to 15 artists or whatever that they did in a one-day festival, and a lot of similar people on there. My Manchester Orchestra's on there, which is really exciting. All American Rejects, Mom Jeans, small indie DIY band that's blown up recently, so it's cool to see them added to the ticket. But Dashboard Confessional. I mean, and I've seen the thing is I've seen all these bands before.
So have I.
And so to see them in a 20-minute set, I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool to see a band like My Chemical Romance, who I never saw. And they recently just got back together, and unfortunately couldn't tour. They were supposed to tour again, but because of COVID, they did not. So it should be really fun. And running around, it's gonna be really hard as you get older. I mean, I twisted my ankle walking today, so it would be grueling.
Let's just say the three of us aren't in the physical shape necessary to go to a show of this caliber.
Christian did some very intense yoga in his car, and followed by inability to walk for the rest of the day.
It's true. I would have bought, if this would have been a festival, I would have bought. I mean, because it's my little emo Christian wet dream. I would have bought tickets instantly. Other than
that was actually the working title for the festival. My little emo Christian wet dream.
Well, on that account, the last thing I'll say about the lineup being unprecedented, like whatever. I mean, Warped Tour 2008. I'm looking at the lineup. They had like 8 stages, and they had an average of like 9 bands per stage, so a total of like a crazy amount, over 100 artists, and they got through a day. And again, they had more stages, but if you do 20-minute sets and you have backline it, you can do it. It's not unheard of. There's a lot of music going on, and you're not gonna be able to see all of it, but that's a fucking festival. So it's not
20-minute set. That's like 4 or 5 songs max.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a festival. It's a music festival. This is what happens at music festivals, and they're all there. So I think it's going to be at least a 2-day event, and they will announce that, and they'll figure out what that looks like and have the bigger artists maybe have a little bit more room. But this is dipping the toe in the water to see how much hype it did, and I think it succeeded. So I'm looking forward to all the TikToks and Snapchats of all my friends that go, because I can't, unless anybody wants to watch my kid, so I can go.
A 6-month-old?
Yeah, anybody want to watch my
babysitting
6-month-old? He's real cool. I haven't met him yet, but he seems like a cool guy, if you ask me.
We checked the source code, and it said hyped. So yeah, that's the When We Were Young festival. When this comes out, the pre-sale tickets will be on sale. So go ahead and check that out if you're able. The next piece of news, Daniel Radcliffe has signed on to star as Weird Al Yankovic in his biopic for the Roku channel. So Al Yankovic
Wait, hold on. Can you I just need you to back up a second. Did you say the Roku channel?
I don't know what the Roku channel is.
Nor do I.
I have a guess. I think it's a subscription. It's a streaming subscription service that you get if you have a Roku.
With a Roku, that's a solid guess. I'm gonna lean on you for that because I had never heard of this before.
Neither did I. I'm just
We're all assuming here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll do some digging. Go ahead, Brian. I'll get back to us.
Yeah, please. Thank you. This is going to be directed by Eric Apple, who co-wrote the script with Al Yankovic. And apparently there was a trailer that came out like 10 years ago or something that everyone thought was a spoof called Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Yeah, it was a
2013.
It was a Funny or Die parody trailer.
And Funny or Die are also producing this movie.
Yes.
So they're expanding this. Daniel Radcliffe is going to star in it. And Al Yankovic is involved in the writing. The tagline for this movie, let me make sure I get it right here. It will hold nothing back when it comes to exploring every facet of Yankovic's storied life, from his meteoric rise to fame with early hits like Eat It and Like a Surgeon, to his torrid celebrity love affairs and famously depraved lifestyle. So this is not going to be the super serious biopic that we've experienced as like the classic tropey thing, I imagine. But I'm super excited to see this. Al Yankovic is someone that since elementary school, he was one of the first kind of, I think your older brothers, Christian, introduced me to like Tenacious D. But prior to Tenacious D, Weird Al was kind of the satire music that I was able to listen to and drawn to, that my friends had introduced me to. And yeah, it's just a ridiculously talented artist who has managed to maintain the level of popularity that he has for a really long time, and seems by all accounts to be a really good person who, even when he does parodies, it's very much an act of love and appreciation for the original music. It's not malicious at all. So how do you guys feel about Al Yankovic? How do you feel about this biopic?
Dude, Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic? Yes. Much yes. When I saw this, I was very excited. And then I got to the end of the headline and I was like, on the Roku channel, I'm never going to get to see this movie.
Hopefully they got a free trial. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but I too was also a really big fan of Weird Al as a kid. You know, and every like, 5 to 10 years or so, maybe I'll pop on like a Weird Al Essentials or listen to one of his albums just to like revisit them. But he's an incredibly
he did to American Pie.
Yeah,
incredible.
He's an incredibly talented artist. It's amazing that he's been able to hang on to his popularity, like you said, Brian, for so many years. Christian, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Update to the Roku channel. The Roku channel is a place where you can find Roku originals and add subscription. You can add your subscriptions to other things. So it's very similar to Amazon Prime in the way you can incorporate like HBO or Hulu.
Okay.
That like one-stop shop, subscribe to all the Showtime and all this other stuff.
So is there like a Roku channel app for like a PlayStation or an Apple TV? Could I watch Roku channel content on other devices?
No? I should
have done more research. I apologize.
No, I'm the one asking the question live, so I'm sorry.
You can add the Roku channel to any Roku streaming device. Compatible Samsung Smart TV, compatible Amazon Fire TV, or access it directly free from the Roku, free mobile app from iOS and Android. So you can watch it on your phone. It doesn't look like they have an Apple TV OS one, but certain
Why would they?
Smart TVs and
they want it to be proprietary,
Well, they put it on Android and iOS, and they put it on Amazon Fire Sticks. I don't know. Seems
all right. You're right.
I don't know what they're running into. Hulu does the same thing, so I don't think there's any rules that prevent them from doing that on most platforms. Anyway, that's a little update to what the fuck is Roku channel, as a bunch of grown ass men who use way more expensive shit to stream their stuff because I like the interface. I used a Roku. It's better than the shit on your smart TV. I'll tell you that much. I can give it that seal of approval for the Roku streaming box. Okay, as for Weird Al, Weird Al's a legend and one of the most talented comedians, parody songwriters ever. He's actually underappreciated in my opinion. I'm excited that we're gonna get a nice biopic. Daniel Radcliffe, great choice. That guy's got chops. I've appreciated everything he's done since Harry Potter. Horns. He's in the Horns adaptation. Hey, adaptation. That's maybe you want to look at that for your podcast and add that to the old docket.
Little Joe Hill
Not
action.
Not a bad movie, as well as the one where Manchester Orchestra, speaking of which, did the soundtrack, Swiss Army Man. So he's been great in everything since. He's a great actor. So very excited for that. Yeah, Weird Al, another note on Weird Al. Yeah, underappreciated. The way he, a lot of people listen to it and go like, oh, he's just making stupid stuff over the music. No, he hired a bunch of talented recording artists and engineers and himself to recreate the song to sound exactly like it was. And you go, oh no, it's just the
Very
music.
impressive.
They got the music. No. They re-recorded it to sound exactly as close to humanly possible as the original one. And that is very, very hard to do. Ask Taylor Swift. It's not
Oh
easy
gosh.
feat. And she wrote all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
she wrote in primarily like one and maybe two genres. Weird Al parodied all the big hits and a lot of Michael Jackson production, because he has a couple of those. Not easy. So he deserves lots of credit in the world. And from what I've heard, he kicks ass live. He's really good live, apparently. Like,
That hurts
Oh
me.
man.
some people say best show they've ever seen. Good.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So because you bring this up, I have to bring up this anecdote. In 5th grade, I had tickets to see Weird Al in concert, and because my grades weren't up to par at that point in time, my punishment was my parents giving the tickets to somebody else. So now that you've said that, Christian, my poor little 5th grade heart, you've recut open the wound, dumped salt in it. I need to figure out a way to see him live as an adult, which is kind of weirder at this point. So maybe
He does tour.
when I have kids.
And listeners, Chris has not talked to his parents since that day.
Yeah, a strange.
Tragic story.
Chris, the next tour Weird Al does, the Pop-O-Holics, if it's reasonable
please.
area,
Yes.
Absolutely.
we'll go to see, because one of the cool things I've heard about his concerts is, and it's a tribute to his ability to do slightly broad, what you consider to be broad comedy, but that's clean and family friendly, is that you will see every walk of life there and every age group. And I always love those experiences, right? Seeing a bunch of older people that have been a fan, younger people our age, which is halfway between old and young, and kids and stuff. Like, come on. It
we
sounds,
just exist.
it sounds like what people think a Fish concert is, but better. A place
And
of
like
hope
Brian
and unity.
mentioned earlier, he seems like a genuinely nice person. Christian, you were just talking about his music being like very well rounded and family friendly for the most part. To my understanding, I was listening to Conan O'Brien interview him on Conan Needs a Friend a couple of months ago.
Stop plugging
and he
other
was-
people's podcasts. Go ahead.
I'm
Chris.
so sorry. I brought it up as my number one podcast of 2021. I plugged an old episode of ours.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Go listen to that. Apparently Coolio was the only person he ever had, like, I say the word beef lightly because they've made amends since then. But in terms of like artists who he's parodied, I guess there were some legal troubles when it came to recording Amish Paradise, and like some miscommunication, and he thought that he had gotten permission to parody the song, and it turns out Coolio never gave him permission. But obviously, that song was made in the 90s. So since then, they've like reconciled and shit. But for the most part, all artists kind of appreciate him reaching out and asking if he can parody their work. I think that's a huge
It's like
compliment.
a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. God, it's so good. And if you when I re-listen to Weird Al, it is just as enjoyable as when I was a kid, if not more, because of the technical achievement that it is. And he's just very smart and very funny, and his stuff.
Yeah.
Amish Paradise, and it's so good. So good. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's Weird, the Al Yankovic story, where Daniel Radcliffe is going to be playing Weird Al.
I can already picture Daniel Radcliffe with the mustache and the hair. Like, he's a great choice.
It's going to be excellent. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
All right. So last piece of news proper. The first trailer for the new Moon Knight show has come out, and this show is created by Jeremy Slater, and he's the head writer with Mohammed Diab, who is leading the directing team. It stars Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, as well as we mentioned earlier, Gaspard Ulliel. Oscar Isaac is playing Mark Spector / Moon Knight. And the premise of this show, Mark Spector, a mercenary who suffers from dissociative identity disorder, is drawn into a deadly mystery involving Egyptian gods with his multiple identities. I didn't really know what to expect at all from this show. And after having watched the trailer, I really liked the horror elements of WandaVision. And when they leaned into that, this seems to be even a step further into kind of a pure horror genre show. I think it fits from what I know about this character. There's also the directors Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who have a new movie premiering at Sundance this weekend, actually. I don't know if I've talked about them on the pod before, but they're directing 2 of the 8 episodes, I believe, as well. They recently put out Synchronic, I think it was in 2020. Really great movie. I think it's on Netflix right now. They have another one called The Endless that is also on Netflix, I think. Amazing up and coming kind of indie directors that are also involved with this show. So the talent is there. The trailer looked really great. I wasn't particularly excited for this show. Obviously, Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, very easy sells, but I'm not a huge Moon Knight fan. Didn't know much about them. Chris, what did you think of this trailer? And how familiar are you with Moon Knight?
So to be perfectly honest, I'm not very familiar with Moon Knight outside of like reading a couple issues. But I'm very excited to see what this show is like. Like you said, Oscar Isaacs and Ethan Hawke, easy sell to bring anybody into this show. Absolutely. And from what I've heard, this is supposed to push the boundaries the furthest that Marvel Studios has ever pushed them in terms of like violence. So I'm very interested to see how brutal this show is.
I like violence
because we've seen. I know that's like a weird thing to like be interested in seeing in a show.
I don't know,
but we've gotten shows like Daredevil and Punisher on Netflix. What
the
Christian?
MCU is very violent.
It is. But I think in terms of like when I say violence, I mean like bloody violence. I think this is going to be the furthest they've pushed it within like the MCU Disney Plus stuff. If we're not talking about the Netflix shows,
what
which
are we
obviously
talking about? Because I don't know what to make of that.
Moon Knight is like a Batman-esque brawler. So in terms of like beating people, that's what I'm kind of talking about.
So like again, in the MCU, we have cut off heads,
but there's very rarely like blood.
That was a clean chop.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no. I mean, they just colored the blood purple,
A different color. Yeah.
so you're just like, there's gonna be high amounts of red human blood.
I think what you're saying is it's going to be in tone darker and maybe more brutal than the presentation of other stuff in the MCU.
I was recently on
bones.
Maybe Broken Bones, possibly.
I like violence.
It's so weird that we're talking about this. This is a very strange conversation. But
it's
I was
be
on
a hard PG-13.
C4S Villains recently when we did our like most anticipated comic book shows and movies of 2022. And when we were talking about Moon Knight, I brought up the fact that and by the way, both Christian and Brian have also been on the show recently. And yes, Brian, Guardians of the Galaxy was in my top 5 most anticipated, the holiday special for this year.
I love it.
Hot takes.
No, it's great.
But
Agree.
What I brought up was the aesthetics of Moon Knight's costume lend itself visually to be very interesting when it comes to like, it's a pure white. So like blood splattered on the costume and stuff is going to be a very intense visual. And I think they would take advantage of that.
I think that's true, Christian, I don't know if you watched this trailer, but the one moment that I thought looked bad was him in the suit. It was like pure CG. It could have been no one under that. I don't know. Were you impressed with how it looked? Because I thought it was like the kind of Spider-Man thing where it's like, oh, this is like a weightless body.
During the shots where the suit has already manifested over Mark Spector, I think that's a real costume. There's
okay.
one shot of it kind of like wrapping itself around him, which obviously has to be CGI.
Okay.
But I didn't think that the shots with him already wearing the costume looked bad.
I watched it on my phone, so maybe if I blew it up, it would look a little better. But it could be the opposite too. But it didn't take me out of being excited for this show from the trailer.
It does not have to be CGI to wrap around him. There's special.
I've got plenty of clothes that just pop right on my body. Totally normal stuff. It's
I mean,
really
if you
convenient.
want it to look like nanotech, sure, I guess.
This is definitely not nanotech.
It's
but
not.
We can
It's
we
not.
can appreciate that. Christian, you said you didn't watch the trailer.
It's got Oscar Isaac. I watch all the damn MCU stuff. Like, I'm watching it. I don't want to watch the trailer. I don't need to. I saw the thumbnail from the static image. I go, that looks like a cool comic book person. So I'm excited. I hope they do. The things that you think they're going to do. That's why I dug a little deep into the violence, because I don't like when they did the bloody Cap shield. Spoilers for Cap America Civil War. When they did the bloody Cap shield, very light spoiler. I was like,
Off
wow.
camera.
That was effective.
It was
was,
effective.
yeah.
That is the worst I imagine it's going to be, if I was to guess. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm always willing to be surprised. And I'm sure the first 3 episodes are going to be really good.
Like I said, it's just what I've heard through the grapevine. I am on a little bit more on your side, Christian, where it's like, how far is Disney and Marvel Studios really willing to push the boundaries, considering what they've done in the past? But if this show turns out to be something that does, push that line a little bit further, that'll be interesting to see
So
how they want to handle it.
you're going to go, because I would say there's a brutality, was kind of what I was getting at with the violence thing. There's
Yeah.
a brutality to, like, for instance, Netflix's Daredevil that you just don't see. And that has to do with more skin-to-skin contact, bruising, blooding, swelling. There's
People slamming heads in car doors.
yeah, people clearly getting incapacitated, killed even, I don't think it will be that brutal.
No, I don't think it'll be that brutal either. But I think somewhere in between, Daredevil and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, probably.
Yeah.
We'll see, though, in March. March 30th, by the way, is when the show comes out.
Yes, and I incorrectly said 8 episodes. It's 6 episodes, 2 of which are directed by the duo that I had mentioned. So yeah, that's Moon Knight. The trailer's out now, and as Chris said, coming out March 30th to Disney Plus. Moving into some stuff that's coming out this week, starting with TV shows. Friday is a packed streaming TV day. I gotta say, a little light on movies this week, but TV is holding us down. So starting out on Prime Video, we've got The Legend of Vox Machina. The plot of this is Vox Machina, a band of 8 unlikely heroes, find themselves on a quest to save the realm of Exandria from dark magical forces. This is an interesting one that Chris, because of our Arcane / Motu discussions, Chris and Christian, last year, this seemed very much up the alley of that sort of show. And it's also kind of interesting from a production standpoint because it's based on a campaign from a web series called Critical Role.
I was hoping you were going to mention that.
Dungeons and Dragons series.
Are you familiar with Critical Role, Brian?
I feel like someone had recommended it to me before because I recognized the title. Maybe. But I'm not sure I've ever actually listened to it. But this is bringing back a lot of the cast from the original run of this.
I'm pretty sure the entire cast.
Is it the entire cast?
To explain do you mind if I explain what Critical Role is for those that
can I try first?
Sure, go for it.
It's like Twitch, but for D&D.
No. Kind of. Matt Mercer, a famous voice actor, has an ongoing game of D&D with other famous voice actors, and they've been doing this for oh my god, maybe over 5 years, possibly over a decade at this point.
I remember we were talking about
2012 was when the first one started.
So a decade now, because I remember talking about this before any of our when we were doing our first podcast that did.
Yeah.
So
essentially,
it was conceived in 2012, started officially in 2015 online.
7 years ago.
Because it used to be played out of his house until they obviously got a bigger budget and were able to get a studio, and it became this huge phenomenon and really I think helped spark this like resurgence of people openly playing D&D more often and people being willing to try it. But the entire cast is comprised of the famous voice actors that he played this original game with. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this speaking to the brutality conversation, this show looks very adult oriented,
Yes.
very funny, very violent. It seems like something that's
I like violence.
great shit. You might be a fan. The stars are, as you said, Matthew Mercer, Ashley Johnson, Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, Liam O'Brien, Taliesin Jaffe, Marisha Ray, and Sam Riegel. I apologize about pronunciation. But yeah, 10 of the episodes for the first season were funded on a Kickstarter, and then I guess Amazon picked it up to complete it. Just kind of a very interesting production story here. Another thing that may be good for Adaptations podcast. Shameless plugs here. But this trailer looked pretty good. Not necessarily my type of show, but I figured our audience and definitely Chris would probably be checking this one out at some point and letting me know how it is.
Ashley Johnson, one of the most prolific video game voice artists. She plays Ellie in The Last of Us, actually, both part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
Fun fact. She does a lot of voiceover work.
I didn't realize that was Ashley Johnson. She also had a bit part in the first Avengers movie. She played the waitress that Cap rescues.
Oh, wow.
Like barely, like maybe one speaking role.
And maybe her most famous role, Petra, from Minecraft Story Mode.
Oh, very nice.
That's when you know
All-time classic.
you're a high-level voice.
If we're just listing what these people have done, Laura Bailey played Kid Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, as well as a billion other characters in anime. These are all very prominent animation and anime actors. So they've just been in a ton of shit. It would take us forever to list everything.
Okay, well,
done.
Ashley Johnson was brothel girl in CSI Crime Scene Investigation.
Dude, I've seen that episode because my wife was watching it like last year. And I looked at the screen and I was like, is that Ashley Johnson?
Wow.
She's billed as brothel girl.
Oh, yeah. It was not a big part.
Never mind.
So yeah, this show, the animation doesn't look super cutting edge, but story wise and comedy, looks like it's. I don't know. I don't think it's on the level of something like Arcane, for example. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's going to be on par with like, the new Voltron show that came out recently. I would say like a lot of the Netflix animations that have recently been released.
Does it look as bad as Motu?
It's probably going to be on par with Motu. Motu, Castlevania. Do you know what animation studio is making this, Brian?
Castlevania's animation is very good.
It is being produced by Critical Role Productions, Titmouse Incorporated, and Amazon Studios.
Titmouse?
I think that's what it is. That's what it says here. So yeah, that is The Legend of Vox Machina. This is not a gag. Coming to Prime Video this Friday, the 28th.
The Legend of Vox Machina. This is not a gag.
That's the
subtitle.
Produced by Titmouse.
Yes. The Afterparty is another series that is coming to Apple TV Plus this Friday. So the plot of this show is after a murder is discovered at a high school reunion, the attendees try to remember what happened, despite all of them remembering the fateful night differently and the murderer remaining at large. So this is kind of like Rashomon / The Last Duel, where we're going to get the same story presented from a lot of different perspectives, and it's a murder mystery. This show looks like it could be a lot of fun.
The cast looks great.
Cast looks great. Created and directed by Christopher Miller. The starring Tiffany Haddish, Sam Richardson, Zoe Chow, Ben Schwartz, Ike Barinholtz, Ilana Glazer, Dave Franco, John Early, and Jamie Demetrio. It's going to be 8 episodes. It's coming out premiering this Friday. Something that was not at all on my radar, but after having loved Only Murders in the Building last year, I am kind of interested in another show that may be in that same sort of mystery kind of genre. And this looks like it has all the right ingredients. Did either of you get a chance to check this one out?
Yeah, this is going to be a show that I demand that my wife and I watch as soon as it starts airing, so I don't miss out like I did with Only Murders in the Building.
All right.
Because I too am very much in for what this show is presenting. It looks to be incredibly funny, a ton of talented comedians, and that whole Agatha Christie framing device of this murder mystery party from a bunch of different perspectives. I'm all about that. I'm ready for this show.
I have no comment because I'm too tired to do a disclosure.
I think your shirt says it all. So yeah, that is the Afterparty, premiering on Apple TV Plus this Friday. We've also got, this is not a gag, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window, coming to Netflix. So this title seems to be a parody of an actual Netflix movie. It's a parody of a lot of titles of this sort of thing, but very much a gag name. And the show seems to, although be comedic, it seems to be a lot more serious than I would have guessed given the title and how silly it kind of is. So the plot of this: watching the world go by from her living room window, heartbroken Anna sets her sights on a handsome new neighbor until she witnesses a gruesome murder, or maybe doesn't witness a gruesome murder. Unreliable main character here, potentially. This is directed by Michael Lehman and created by Rachel Ramrus and Hugh Davidson and Larry Dorff, and stars Kristen Bell, Tom Riley, Mary Holland, Shelley Hennig, and many more. I honestly thought this was going to be a straight satire show, and there's like a lot of like drinking gags that happen in the trailer, but I'm very interested to see the tone. The Afterparty seemed to know the tone from the trailer.
Yeah, the Afterparty seems to be pure comedy, whereas this show, based on the trailer, seems to be more serious.
Yeah, it's like Disturbia / Rear Window / comedy. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to nail it, but it's going for something, and I'm conceptually
you've
intrigued.
Kristen Bell is the lead, who has comedic chops. You know,
For sure.
know she can deliver comedy.
Oh, The Good Place. Very great show on television. I haven't seen the whole thing, but she's amazing in that one.
Can I just? There's a grammatical error. There's a capitalization error in the title, and it's the same on their website. Am I wrong? Because if you look at it, so across is a what is the word? God, why did I just forget?
You're gonna do this again?
I'm just saying it's a what's the across, about, aboard, above is freaking why am I blanking on this? Guys, you are grammar nerds, so you're not going to be any help.
I'm sorry, I can't.
No, I really have. Yeah, I'm not good with that stuff. You're the pro.
Above, across, aboard. About.
Are you saying across should not be capitalized?
Exactly.
Yes,
I'm so sorry that I'm messing this up. They are prepositions. And in a title, a preposition is lowercase, as you can see by all the lowercase prepositions in the title of the show. Because in is a preposition, and obviously the, which is an article. From the girl, from is not, but across the street, across is capitalized? Netflix. Check yourself.
It could potentially, the reason for its capitalization, we're really nerding out here, could potentially be having to do with the graphic of the title. So a capital A might look more interesting than a lowercase a, especially considering that in the trailer, the way they break up the title, I believe, is The Woman in the House, and then space down, across the street,
space down, lowercase from?
No, it's probably across the street from the girl or something. I don't know. I'll have to watch the trailer again.
Okay,
but I'm saying it could potentially be like a graphic choice instead of, say, a grammatical choice when it comes to creating the logo.
It's a graphic choice for sure. I can't believe I spaced out on the word preposition. Yeah, this is a series of prepositional phrases in this title. I just have I'm not interested in the show. I hate people who suck at grammar.
But do you love graphic design?
Mm-hmm.
You can't end. You're not. You have to lowercase your prepositions, and you can't end a sentence with a preposition.
What if I was
Christian will not be watching
across.
The Woman in the House across the street from the girl in the window.
I think
just based on the grammatical errors in the title.
Can you imagine you talking about watching this movie? or the show, you got to be like, I was on my bed watching The Woman in the House across the street from The Girl in the Window on Netflix. What a mouthful.
So that's coming to Netflix this Friday. Grammar Police, I sincerely apologize, but they made this choice and they're going to have to live with it. So moving on to some TV or to some movies that are coming out. This Thursday, we've got The Fallout coming to HBO Max. So this is the directorial debut of writer-director Megan Park and follows Jenna Ortega, who's a high school student navigating significant emotional trauma following a school shooting. The music's done by Phineas O'Connell for this, who is the brother to Billie Eilish and who is the producer and co-writer to all of her music. Very talented guy. It also stars Maddie Ziegler, Shailene Woodley, Julie Bowen, John Ortiz, Niles Fitch, and Will Ropp in supporting roles. You know what this movie is going to be about with what I've said. This is going to be an emotional movie to get through. Unfortunately, very topical in the United States, but it looks like it can have some levity. I think it's ultimately going to be hopeful and about, young people dealing with their trauma, and it's being sold as very much Generation Z, one of the true Generation Z stories. So obviously a bit younger than our generation, but this movie looks solid. And from what I know about Jenna Ortega, she seems to be a quality actress, and this looks like a pretty solid directorial debut, even if it's emotionally provocative, obviously. That's The Fallout coming to HBO Max this Thursday. All right. This movie, I'm going to assume that when it gets to Netflix, there will be English subtitles available. But in the trailer
right now,
in the trailer that I saw, there were no English subtitles available for this. But this is an interesting one. It's a 2-part anime science fiction film called, in English, The Orbital Children. The translation is Extraterrestrial Boys and Girls, which I think I like a little more than The Orbital Children. This is written and directed by Mitsuo Iso and stars Natsumi Fujiwara, Azumi Wacky, Kensho Ono, and many others. And the story takes place in 2045 in outer space, where AI, the internet, and social networking sites are widespread. There's a massive accident and a group of children are left behind to fend for themselves. Hence, The Orbital Children. A 2-part movie is, we talked about Dune recently, so it's not like it doesn't happen, but it seems kind of a bold choice. And the animation looks really solid in this. I hope it's going to be on Netflix, so obviously it's going to have, I was being a little bit facetious because of the trailer, but.
Listen, Brian, I have to say, I've been reading subtitles since I was 11 years old. Okay. I'm very adept when it comes to watching.
Reading?
At reading and watching anime in its native Japanese language with subtitles. I have a lot of practice. I've never watched a trailer, and maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I am dumb. I've never watched a trailer that I've wanted to pause more often because the lines of dialogue were so quick, and I was trying to read the subtitle and see what was going on in the trailer, but I couldn't bounce back and forth between the quick cuts. And so I hope that it has a dub, or being in its full form, I'm sure it'll be much easier to read.
You actually did have subs. The one I watched did not have any subs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just watched the Japanese trailer, and I must have. Okay, there must be a different version out there. I'm glad to hear there's one.
There is a subtitled. Yeah, there is a subtitled trailer out there.
Okay.
Good luck reading the subtitles.
You know who's got the subs?
Maybe they were there and I just missed them.
Maybe.
You know who's got the subs? Subway. Hey, come on!
Very, very nice.
How do we make it to a 4th season?
They will have no one. We're an hour into this. No one's listening. We have they're gonna have a dub because Netflix is their whole thing is dubbing stuff in international release. They've dubbed every international thing, so it would be very odd to say the least if they didn't have a dub. They want to just start playing, and they want you to hear it in English or your native language. So they always do that.
So yeah, that's the Orbital Children Part 1 that's going to be out this Friday on Netflix, and Part 2 will be out on February 11th. I'll try and remember to bring it up again when it happens.
The anime on the Netflix
from the streamer
with the
F.
sub and the dub.
Yeah, that's the Orbital Children Part 1 coming to Netflix on Friday. And finally, the last piece of news. I know Chris has been eagerly anticipating this one for a long time, but Pokemon Legends Arceus is coming to the Switch this Friday. This is a
ugly looking game. Oh, sorry.
I don't know about that. It's a first of its kind action role playing game for Pokemon that seems to expand into different elements of gameplay than previous Pokemon in terms of the standard games. So, Chris, can you speak on this a little bit? I know you've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this game is being developed by Game Freak, the company that has made all the Pokemon games outside of the most recent Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I really wasn't a huge fan of. And they're really looking, like Brian said, to kind of evolve and expand on the type of mechanics that this game is using. I was telling Christian that this game looks to be like if Pokemon, Monster Hunter, and Breath of the Wild had a baby, it would be this game. And, I've seen some of the gameplay footage already. Like I said, the mechanics are wildly different. Things that have been staple in the Pokemon franchise are handled differently in this game. And I'm just really excited to play it and see what Game Freak has done to make this kind of a new venture in the Pokemon franchise. Or is this going to be something that they continue to do moving forward? I don't know. The whole premise of this game is just super interesting to me because Game Freak isn't really known for taking chances. The Pokemon franchise has been pretty uniform. There've been changes here and there, but it's maintained a very similar structure for in the last 25 years. So this is really exciting to me. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And I'm sure I'll talk about it in our quick hits maybe in the future, depending on what we have time for. But yeah, I actually sent some gameplay footage to Christian last week to get his take on it because I know he's been kind of displeased with the formula for a long time. And I wanted to hear what his thoughts were. So, Christian, what do you think about the gameplay footage that I sent you?
It's comfort food, the Pokemon series, and so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my cup of tea. This game doesn't look, it looks like, I'm glad they're trying new things. It looks like a butt. It looks like a straight up butt. It looks terrible. It looks just
Pokemon Legends ass.
I mean, they were showing gameplay of it, and the animations are rough. The world is like 5 colors. I don't know. It's just not a very immersive experience. It is not a pretty open world, and it looks like the UI is very like Japanese game developer for PS2, PS3 of like, big menus and lots of icons everywhere and just fluttered UI.
I think it's Game Freak trying to compromise in those moments. Like how do we create an open world game while also maintaining part of the formula? Pokemon has always utilized these like 4-button menus when it comes to the battles. And I think they're trying to figure out like how do we implement that into the overworld UI. But I can see how that's like frustrating, especially when you're looking at games like Breath of the Wild or any other open world games that don't typically.
It's actually pretty. It's pretty standard Japanese game development and how they structure menus. It's very common to see that type of menu overlay. It's very similar to Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy. So it looks like so not my type of game. But I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope it's innovative. I mean, basically, it's just like your Pokemon still has 4 moves. It looks like, and it looks like you just go around in a more open world environment, and you can make potions.
So, one of the things, I don't know if I should mention this, but I'm going to. One of the things that I recently saw in terms of game mechanics, which I found to be really cool. Typically, when it comes to a Pokemon's move set, like Christian said, you can only learn 4 moves, and you have to delete moves to make room for, a new one. One of the mechanics they've added into this game is that as soon as a Pokemon learns a move, it's added to like a roster of moves, and you can change its move set on the fly wherever you are in the game.
Like
which
mid-combat or
not mid-combat. So
Okay.
like you're locked into a 4-move set as soon as you enter a battle. But like in terms of having an entire move library available to you on the fly, that's something they've never done before. And not having to spend any type of like in-game currency to shift the moves out willy-nilly. Like in terms of the way the UI works, you can literally change all 4 moves at once, which is so cool. And they've something they've never ever done before.
they learned command shift or they learned shift click. Wow.
Right. Christian, when I texted you, you said that this looks like a Generation 1 product, and I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see how this impacts the future of the franchise.
Yeah.
That's
It looks like they're trying something, so go for it.
That's Pokemon Legends Arceus coming out for the Switch this Friday. And that is it for the first news of 2022, guys.
I might have to call this mega news section. My goodness, what a wacky fun trip.
It's going to be normal length because we've got the big boy coming out separately this week.
Yeah.
Don't talk about me that way. We are an hour and 15 in and still not done with our last section, so we are well over Brian. but we will proceed. Chris, it's time for you to take over for the Pop-O-Holics community feedback corner.
Welcome back to the community feedback section, loyal listeners. Here, this is where we typically talk about our upcoming Throwback Thursday episode coming out on our YouTube channel and go over any type of reviews that we've gotten on Spotify or Apple podcast app. And we'll go over our poll results whenever we have polls on Twitter. But this week, we don't have any new reviews. We don't have any poll results, but we do have a new Throwback Thursday episode coming out this Thursday on our YouTube channel. We're currently in the middle of a Kevin Smith artist spotlight. We just wrapped up our Quentin Tarantino artist spotlight last month. And so far, we've released our Clerks episode and our Mallrats and Chasing Amy episode over on our YouTube channel. And this coming Thursday, we have our Dogma and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back episode. Another 90s, early 2000s double feature for you guys to listen to. So head on over to our YouTube channel this Thursday to check out our opinions about both of those movies. And remember to like and subscribe. Christian, where else
smash,
can our loyal listeners
absolutely destroy and crush that bell icon, YouTube watchers?
Take your hand and just punch your computer screen.
Just
smash it.
God,
Smash
I
that.
love violence. Especially against bells and icons. You can find us everywhere over the internet. We're on all social medias, and we're on, like you said, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe there, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Wherever you're not subscribed, you guys subscribe, smash the bell icon. You can email us at popholicscast@gmail.com. We read every single email we get, and we love hearing from our listeners. Please rate us 5-star reviews. Give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatcher of choice. That is Apple Podcast and Spotify. It's just the one app. It's got everything, podcast and music. But you don't have to have a subscription. I'm not selling it out for. I don't give a shit where you listen. Just write a review. If you write a 5-star review, we actually will read it aloud on the show. So if you want to guarantee your place in the Pop-O-Holics Walk of Fame, go ahead and leave that review. I'm talking to you, Joe. You know who you are, Joe. Joe, write that review.
Get on in here.
Get on in here. Get on up in here. Alrighty, well, that's going to do it for this show. I've already mentioned it, but Chris, you want to remind the listeners what's coming up on Wednesday?
Christian, on Wednesday, we're going to be doing our Mega Quick Hits Part 3, The Quicker They Fall, where we're going to talk about everything we've been consuming during our holiday break.
Yes, we are, and I'm very excited to bring that to you on the next episode in Season 4